So, why did you try to destroy the life of an innocent professor with zero proof?
Get out of my face. I'll call the police.
For asking a question?
This is the TikTok psychic coming out of court after seemingly spending the last 3 years doing everything possible to destroy the life of an innocent professor on TikTok. And she just announced that she's going to sue me after what I did in today's video. So it's safe to say this is quite the story.
First of all, I'm about to press charges against Atozy. He's been calling my phone for 3 years. Since the onset of this case, he's been calling and harassing me by phone. He was harassing me in person after court on Thursday.
So meet Ashley Gilliard. She's spent the last 3 years spreading the lie that the university professor by the name of Rebecca Schofield dated a student and orchestrated a quadruple homicide to avoid getting caught, with zero proof. And we'll get into it because in court, under oath, she admitted her only proof that she had was her tarot cards and her spiritual intuition. So it's safe to say this was an absolute dumpster fire. But where does this whole story start? Well, unfortunately, it starts with a tragedy that really shook the nation.
The victims went to this school just a few blocks away, which is the University of Idaho. The story starts in the worst way possible, where this monster decided to end the lives of multiple university students. Right here. The house has since been demolished. Just having this detour and seeing the memorial still in place, it hits hard.
And when all of this happened, everyone was in shock. This was clearly a small town, which never has anything like this happen. And the internet immediately started searching for any information they could. And grifters like Ashley Gilliard decided to capitalize on the internet's desperation for any information. So meet the villain of today's story. She's a self-proclaimed psychic with an ego bigger than I've ever seen in my life. And she's written many books about solving various high-profile without actually solving anything. No arrests or anything have ever been made from anything that she's ever put out. But this hasn't stopped her from slandering innocent people online and selling her spiritual intuition psychic services. And this is all while arrogantly calling the general public dumb as rocks. But as we'll find out in the courtroom, she might be projecting a little bit. But how was Ashley projecting by calling the public dumb as rocks? Well, probably because you have to be a complete moron to accuse someone of a quadruple homicide without any proof. But you enter a whole new league when it comes to not only ignoring multiple cease and desists, but publicly respond to them like this.
I've been against people, big and small, corporations and giants and systemic policies and racism and won. They all regret coming against me. All of them. Now Rebecca is going to be added to that list of regretful people.
And this.
I'm about to put this demand letter Rebecca Schofield attorney sent me by the tissue so I can wipe my with it.
So that left the professor with no option but to sue her. Well, regardless, this whole story starts in Moscow, Idaho, in a small community that's mostly known as a university town. And here we had a tragedy that shook the nation. And Ashley Gilliard, our self-proclaimed TikTok psychic, took it upon herself to make dozens of videos claiming that she solved the whole case, slandering an innocent professor and other students who knew the victims, all for attention on TikTok. But after the original cease and desist by the professor, what happened? Well,
I think this is how y'all want me to feel about a measly $75,000 lawsuit that I'm going to win.
She continued.
If you see, there's a lot of videos about the for University of Idaho students and who they think did it.
And continued.
I need to stop asking me about this lawsuit. It should not even have been allowed.
And it kept getting worse and worse. I mean, she was uploading more and more videos defaming this innocent professor and other students who were traumatized by this incident. And why did she do this? Well, because again, she claims she solved the case with her spiritual intuition and her tarot cards. And things are apparently so bad that she wrote multiple books about how she's solved other famous cases. But the only problem is, again, no arrests have ever been made from her information because all of her information is, again, from her own spiritual intuition and tarot cards. So I was in so much belief, I just had to see this with my own eyes because I thought there was no way this woman was real. My only issue is I heavily commit to the bit. But sometimes I make mistakes. And somehow I pulled a document from early 2025 saying the court was going to be in northern Idaho. Clearly, I flew to Boise. I thought that was correct. Turns out I was correct. I just didn't know I was correct at the time. But I guess the information I pulled to double check while I was traveling was clearly very wrong.
So the TikTok psychic's trial is in 2 days. I booked my flight months ago. I was like, yeah, it's in Idaho, so I'm gonna book my flight to Boise, Idaho. I'll figure out from there. Well, I'm sitting here just going through all the, logistics stuff because I have to book my hotel and everything, and I realize This is so far away from Boise, Idaho. It's like 5.5 hours away. So I'm gonna have to fly in tomorrow. I'm gonna have to rent a car now, no matter what, and drive 5.5 hours each way just to cover this trial, on top of flying across America. Yeah, I should have planned this better. I was more focused on just uploading videos every single day, and I guess double uploading on some days as well. So I just didn't think to check how close the trial was to Boise, Idaho. This is such a rookie mistake. I'm an idiot. Welcome to Boise, the wrong side of the state where I'm supposed to be. So this might actually be a generational fumble on my part because it's 6 p.m. now. I'm running on like 2 hours of sleep. I slept about an hour in total on the travel here. And I Googled to see how long a car ride is, and it's not 5.5 hours. It's 7 hours. Meaning I'm not arriving until 1. I have to be at court 9 in the morning tomorrow. That's when it starts. So I need to be there like 8:30. I got myself in quite the pickle from not checking logistics. To make things worse, I'm missing my bag. Everyone that I've been on a plane with has already left, and my bag's not here. All right, so we are currently an hour and a half into the drive. I had to stop because I had to upload a video. I'm in like the middle of nowhere in Idaho right now. I'm trying to upload my video real quick. I might actually film a video as well. So that's what I'm currently doing. And then I still have another like 5.5 hours to drive. Hopefully I'll get like 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And then we gotta be at court. So I pulled over because, yeah, I'm not gonna film this while I'm driving, but it started snowing pretty heavily on the way up. It got bad. So I'm driving up through this area called like, I think it was called Little Salmon River. And it was like this really twisty and windy road going up. And I kept hydroplaning on the slush. And this car was great until we got it on snow. Actually, I do wanna check on the tires. Do I even have all seasons? I didn't even think to check if I have all seasons or not. But you can definitely tell how thin the tires are as soon as you get it on snow. All right, so it's safe to say the massive cold brew and the energy drink is currently saving me here. I have 3 hours left, and then hopefully I can get like 4 hours of sleep before I have to get up for the trial. And then we're on it for tomorrow. It's been an adventure. A little bit of an unexpected adventure, but onward. I don't know why, but I absolutely jinxed myself. I was like, oh, yeah, we went through the pass. It's getting like better because like it's still snowing, but it's not bad. It got so much worse. I now have an hour and a half left until I'm there. The roads are covered in snow. This is basically just like full on blizzard. I'm in summer tires, and it's those eco-friendly summer tires, which are like super thin. So I'm sledding. I am sledding to northern Idaho currently. Yeah, I think it was like 10 hours later, I finally made it to the hotel. So it's 3:08 a.m. right now. So I have about, what, 4.5 hours to get some sleep before court. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I lay down in bed. I double checked the venue again. I'm like, okay, we checked the venue before I traveled. The information I had was outdated. They moved the venue to Boise, where I was 10 hours ago, before I drove through the blizzard to get all the way up here. I'm at the northern point, at the opposite side of Idaho. Now I have to drive the rental car all the way back down to where I started. 7 hours just to be in the right spot. I took a voluntarily 14-hour detour. Oh, I'm operating on like 2 hours of sleep still. Okay, I'm gonna sleep. I'm not even mad. I'm just disappointed in myself.
But clearly, this was an extremely expensive video to make. And while some of it was self-inflicted, you know, I'm just trying my best here. I do want to give a special thank you to today's sponsor, Coopert, for paying for my expedition across America to make this video. Because every year, shoppers miss out on billions of dollars in savings if they had just applied discount codes that are available to the public. But the only problem is, most people have no idea where to find them, and they often take ages to find. But thankfully, there is an alternative out there called Coopert, as Coopert is a free browser extension that automatically finds, tests and applies the best working coupon codes at checkout, then gives users cashback for shopping through their partnered stores. So Coopert offers 3 main ways to save money on your online purchases. The first one being Coopert automatically searches hundreds of thousands of websites to help find you the best deals on products. And second, Coopert also runs coupon testing for over 3 million different retailers to make sure you're buying the item at the lowest possible price. Then finally, they also offer cashback rewards for a ton of different retailers, which you can withdraw straight to your bank account or your PayPal. And Coopert also supports Chrome, Edge, Opera, Firefox, and Safari on desktop, and Safari on mobile. And then on top of everything, with over 9 million users, Coopert is a trusted source for shoppers, and they work with over 200,000 merchants globally to bring you the best deals and savings. And I mean, their Trustpilot score reflects that. So if that sounds like a win to you, you can join the millions of users who already use Coopert by clicking on the link at the top of the description down below and adding it to your web browser. So thank you again to Coopert for paying for this expedition, but without further ado, let's continue the video.
Yeah, no, I mean, I goofed it. I don't know how I goofed it, but I goofed it very hard. All we can really do is make the best out of it. So I contacted the airlines because remember, they lost my bag. Thankfully, they hadn't shipped it all the way up here yet, because or else I would have had to wait here until I got the bag. But now I'm gonna go back down to Boise, Idaho, pick up my bag, and then wait for the court dockets to drop. So I at least know what happened in court today. And then I'm probably gonna do another trial live stream updating everything that happened in court today. And then I'll resume day 2, 3, and 4 in trial in person. I will also go to Moscow, Idaho, since it's on the way. I drove past Moscow, Idaho last night when I was coming up here. So I do want to go down there and get a little bit of footage of, I guess, the university and the place where all of this started from. So at least we'll get some footage to make a better video from this massive detour. But other than that, I mean, I've heard this area of Idaho is absolutely beautiful. So I'm really excited to actually be able to do this drive in the daytime so I can actually see what it all looks like. Because last night, all I saw was a blizzard blowing snow at me and just darkness. So it'll be nice to see the scenics. I don't know why I didn't check for the most recent updates on the dockets, but yeah, I was reading something that was outdated. I think it was from January 18th, where they announced the trial was supposed to be here. A month later, it's not though. So hey, it's just a big lesson that I gotta dot my T's and cross my I's. Dot my I's and cross my T's. But yeah, let's start this 7-hour plus drive down because obviously there's a bunch of snow and I'm rocking a rental car with front wheel drive, eco-friendly summer tires. So this is gonna take a whole lot longer than just 7 hours to get back down because it took a whole lot longer than 7 hours to get up here. Just having this detour and seeing the memorial still in place, it hits hard. It honestly just makes me so much more angry that the TikTok psychic or Ashley Gilliard decided to take this horrific tragedy and completely make it about herself. Because it seems like all she wanted was her moment to solve the crime. And you know, instead of solving the problem, all she did was slander an innocent university professor that taught at the school where this tragedy happened.
Yes, that's how I ended up in the wrong side of the state and realized I need to get back down to the opposite side of the state for court in the morning. But if you didn't know, my name is Arling and I go by Atozy or Atozy online, and I'm obsessed with covering laughably stupid and overall bizarre internet situations because this is all new and mostly unheard of. So if you want to come along for the ride, feel free to subscribe because I upload pretty much every single day on this channel. Regardless though, at this point in time, the TikTok psychic has ran out of excuses because her defamation case is finally going to trial. And now a jury, not tarot cards, is about to decide her fate.
My reputation is destroyed. The TikTok page that I built for years is gone. She's winning in court. My business is ruined. Why do y'all keep commenting? What else could you possibly want?
After more than 100 videos accusing a University of Idaho professor of planning the 2022 Moscow, Idaho tragedy, after cease and desist letter after cease and desist letter was ignored, and after the actual pleaded guilty last year, the damages trial is finally here. And now the only question left is, how much is this going to cost our self-proclaimed TikTok psychic over here? Well, let's get into it. So it was confirmed that Ashley Gilliard is due in federal court in Boise, Idaho for a trial. This trial is meant to finally resolve a 3-year-long civil lawsuit. Now, a judge already ruled on liability back in June of 2024, and the court said that Gilliard defamed University of Idaho professor Rebecca Schofield when she posted dozens and eventually more than 100 videos accusing her of plotting the 2022 Moscow.
Now to a strange development in the unsolved 4 University of Idaho students. A professor at the school is now suing a TikTok creator for defamation.
The court found, and I quote, "The extent of plaintiff's damages, if any, remains an issue for trial." And this is important because that means the jury is not deciding whether Gilliard lied or not. The jury is deciding how much those lies will cost her. And this damages trial is meant to focus on the toll those accusations took on Schofield's personal life and career. And we have some earlier news that reported that multiple witnesses are expected to testify, including Schofield's therapist of the past 2 years and a public relations specialist who can speak on the reputational damage that the professor took. And over time, those videos multiplied by a lot. But she wasn't just speculating or guessing even, she named someone very confidently. And if you think that she regrets that now, no, she absolutely doesn't. This video is still pinned on our YouTube page.
Everything that I'm saying and most of everything that happened to the students that night and before is evidenced in the app that Rebecca Schofield used to communicate with all of her collaborators. So if there is anybody who doesn't care about spiritual wisdom or does not understand spiritual wisdom, and you have the authority to do more, to get evidence, you can, if you have the legal authority to, subpoena Rebecca Schofield's electronics.
So yes, even months after this trial, she publicly accused the University of Idaho history professor Rebecca Schofield of having a secret romantic relationship with one of the victims and planned to keep that relationship from becoming public. And because this video is still up, I guess she's still also calling for people to try to subpoena Rebecca Schofield. Why? Well, honestly, after all of the videos I've made on her and even showing up and going through this entire court experience, I couldn't tell you, because she nor I am able to tell you why she would do something this stupid and random. But if you are questioning why her story about the professor might sound a little bit familiar, is because it seems like it's the exact same storyline as How to Get Away with Season 1. So this woman is just insane and is LARPing as some sort of TikTok psychic. Imagine fanficking yourself into owing a professor millions of dollars. Well, that's the pickle she's gotten herself into. And honestly, it's hard to say anything else but a massive skill issue, because she treated this whole story like it was some like extract tarot card reading or fan fiction, but it was pretty much a direct accusation of. And Schofield, who served as a chair of the University of Idaho History Department, had never met any of these 4 students. She had never taught them. She was not connected to them in any way. And according to her filings, she and her husband were out of state in Oregon visiting friends the night the occurred. And despite that, the videos continued. Schofield sent cease and desist letters demanding Gilliard to remove the content and stop making the accusations. The letters, as we've already covered, were ignored, and the court described it as plaintiff sent cease and desist letters to defendant in the following days and weeks. When the defendant did not stop, plaintiff initiated this action. So on December 21st, 2022, Schofield filed a federal defamation lawsuit in the District of Idaho, and Gilliard did not back down. In fact, she publicly stated that a jury would eventually side with her. Yes, the woman who used tarot cards to accuse a professor of thought that a jury would actually side with her. Also, in the middle of all this, while Gilliard was still insisting her psychic readings somehow uncovered the truth here, law enforcement actually arrested the actual. So 9 days after Rebecca Schofield filed her defamation lawsuit, law enforcement arrested a suspect, who is Bryan Kohberger, a Washington State University graduate student, and he was taken into custody and charged with of the 4 University of Idaho students. So at that point, the online speculation from Ashley should have stopped, but it didn't. So while the criminal case began moving forward in the state court, the civil case against Ashley Gilliard continued in federal court. And Gilliard kept saying in her psychic readings that she'd uncovered the real truth. And obviously, years passed as both of these cases went on separately, and the criminal prosecution moved through pretrial hearings, discovery battles, and motions. And at the same time, the defamation lawsuit kept moving forward as well. Then finally, in June of last year, the criminal case reached its end. Bryan Kohberger admitted to taking the lives of the 4 University of Idaho students. He also waived his appeal rights, and he was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms in prison with no possibility of parole, and rightfully so. Finally, the monster was locked up. But meanwhile, keep in mind that throughout the whole civil litigation between the professor and Ashley Gilliard, one of her hangups was that the defamation case, somehow depended on proving who committed the. Okay, so in June of 2025, that was proven. She was wrong. There's a dude currently doing life in prison ×4 right now. So I guess the whole I'm proving that Rebecca Schofield is guilty thing, that's just in her own head. Because, the civil lawsuit has nothing to do with who was guilty or not guilty of. The lawsuit was about how Gilliard wouldn't stop harassing someone online to the point that damages actually had to be sought. To quote the lawsuit, it says, "The court concluded that plaintiff established a reasonable likelihood of proving by clear and convincing evidence that defendant's conduct in accusing plaintiff of an affair with a student before ordering that student and 3 other students was oppressive, fraudulent, malicious, and or outrageous." So while Gilliard, for some reason, is still trying to prove how her weird theory is right, the court is actually just trying to decide how much of a harasser she really is. And obviously, it didn't help when the man responsible actually confessed. So there was no hidden conspiracy or secret professor plotting this crime. There was no evidence tying Schofield to any relationship, any planning, or any connection whatsoever. And the judge later described Gilliard's claims of having a complete lack of any corroborating support. And obviously, this is a defamation case, so truth is an absolute defense. So if Gilliard has evidence that her claims were true, that would have, ended the lawsuit. But the court found none. Instead, it found that the only support was spiritual intuition and tarot cards. I wish I was joking, because the court had already ruled in earlier proceedings, in quote, "Intuition, even summoned by one's spirituality, does not make a legal claim plausible." So in case you're wondering, no, you cannot accuse someone of based on vibes. So by the time Kohberger pleaded guilty, the criminal case had confirmed what law enforcement had said from the beginning. Rebecca Schofield was never a suspect. But by then, the civil case between the professor and Ashley was already well underway, and the federal judge had already issued one of the biggest rulings in the case. So on June 6th, 2024, U.S. Magistrate Judge Raymond Patricio issued a partial summary judgment against, ruling that Ashley Gilliard defamed Rebecca Schofield. So in civil procedure, summary judgment means there's no factual issue that needs a jury to decide on liability. The court found the statements to be false and defamatory, but Gilliard argued that her statements were true. Because of course she did. Why would she ever change her stance, ever? Some people literally cannot admit when they're wrong, because it seems like it's just impossible for Ashley to do the simple thing of admitting that she's wrong and apologizing to the professor. And of course, she kept going on by insisting that she uncovered the truth with her own spiritual intuition. And I mean, she is literally arguing guilty until proven innocent in a freaking civil case where she's the defendant. It doesn't make sense. You're the one on trial here, ma'am. What are you doing? But obviously, the court rejected that argument, and under Rule 56, the burden shifted to Gilliard to present evidence creating a genuine dispute of fact. She couldn't do that whatsoever, other than whip out tarot cards and her own spiritual intuition. I feel like a broken record at this point. So with no evidence tying Schofield to the has no basis for relationship, the court concluded that Gilliard's public accusations met the definition of defamation, and that wasn't the only ruling that she got hit with that day. The judge also granted Schofield permission to seek punitive damages, and under Idaho law, punitive damages are not immediately included in a complaint. So at this point, the case is no longer whether Gilliard defamed Schofield or not. No, the only thing left is how much money will Ashley owe Schofield, the professor. But of course, Gilliard did not accept the ruling quietly. No, she accepted none of this quietly. Instead, she kept filing motion after motion to set aside the decision to dismiss the case for lack of jurisdiction and alter and amend the judgment. And I guess to argue that the court was biased and had violated her First Amendment rights. And of course, all of those efforts were denied. Shocker. Now you may be wondering, what First Amendment rights does she think has been violated? Well, she thinks they've improperly evaluated her spiritual beliefs. Does that mean that she's taking the freedom of religion stance for her tarot cards? I wish I was joking. So in her response to her claim that ruling denounced her tarot card readings and violated the separation of church and state, the court said, to be clear, the court takes no position on defendant's spiritual beliefs, but where those beliefs manifest an unlawful action, the court cannot be regulated to bystander status simply because the unlawful action might have a spiritual beginning. I feel like I'm getting a headache reading this. Like, you can't get the ability to accuse a random person of because your spiritual beliefs told you to do so. That just doesn't make sense. What are we doing here? Like, she also sought to delay the damages trial while pursuing an appeal, and those efforts were thankfully rejected as well. And by the way, while she was, I guess, putting in these requests for delays and appeals, she was also reposting old videos like this.
The kid who executed the Idaho murder will be put in jail. Once the police have all their ducks in a row, they are going to come after him. He's going to surrender. It may seem like it's going to be like a deadly conflict with him, but they're going to be able to do it without further damage or without deadly force, then he's going to be put in prison. When he's in prison, he's going to explain to them why he did what he did. He's going to say that he was wrapped up in his dreams, that he had problems continuing his studies and finding a place to stay, too many issues and challenges that was getting in the way of his goals and dreams, that he felt he was unable to follow through on his plans, and that someone offered help if he was to kill the 4 Idaho college students, but really the 2, but that turned into the 4. Then he's going to spend some time in solitary confinement before anything else happens.
Ma'am, this is the content that got you into the lawsuit in the first place. What are you doing? And so it's definitely hard to feel bad for her while she's recycling the content that started the whole thing. After years of accusations, motions, rulings, denials, and a criminal case that's already entered, 4 life sentences. So I guess what's left is to see what actually happens in this damages hearing. And spoiler alert, it seemed like Ashley was still trying to treat the case like she was going to prove that the professor committed the tragedy. And regardless, I still can't get over how 3 years ago she was completely convinced that a jury was going to agree with her. And now I guess a jury just has to agree how much she has to pay the professor. And whatever that number is, it will be the final chapter of this case that started with tarot cards and ended in federal court. But okay, so let me explain why I accidentally drove 14 hours around Idaho. So back in August of 2025, the court issued its order setting trial. And that order, the judge noted that unless otherwise ordered or agreed by both parties, the trial would take place in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So naturally, that's where everyone assumed it would be. But the same day, the court informally reached out to both sides and basically said, hey, do you guys want to hold this in Boise instead? And the plaintiff quickly agreed to move it to Boise. Ashley did not respond. So on August 20th, 2025, the court emailed her directly and said, as of now, the court is inclined to hold the trial in Boise, Idaho. Ms. Gilliard, please let me know by August 27, 2025 if you oppose the trial taking place in Boise. In the event you do not respond, the court will understand that you do not oppose the trial taking place in Boise. So very simple. If you don't object, we're doing it in Boise. And instead of responding with, I prefer Coeur d'Alene or Boise is fine, Ashley responded that she stipulates to have the trial in Houston, Texas instead. No, all of this happened in Idaho. She slandered a woman in Idaho and the venue has already been ruled to be Idaho. And that's the problem when you represent yourself in court. Because essentially the professor's lawyers are playing chess with a pigeon. It's hard to win in chess with a pigeon because regardless, the pigeon's gonna walk all over the board and defecate on it. And that's exactly what Ashley does throughout this entire court proceeding. All of the arguments from Ashley do not make sense whatsoever, and the judge is just way too lenient with her. Even before the physical hearing started, the judge was way too lenient with her. But regardless, after Ashley said that she wanted the court to be held in Houston, Texas, they announced the trial will take place in Boise, Idaho. So it started February 24th, 2026 at 9 in the morning. So yes, the reason I flew into Boise, then found out it was supposedly in Coeur d'Alene, then drove across Idaho, only to learn it was actually back in Boise, is because of that weird period where the location wasn't cleanly locked in and Ashley wasn't responding clearly because she was trying to move the whole venue to Houston, Texas. So that's how I ended up doing the whole Idaho tour, because I accidentally pulled some documents that were a little bit outdated. But honestly, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be Bob Ross for a moment and say that's just a happy accident, because I would have never seen Coeur d'Alene or like the beautiful drive going from Boise all the way up to Coeur d'Alene without that little mistake. So I just call it a happy little accident. That's how I cope with me driving for 14 hours without technically needing to drive for 14 hours. In a blizzard, by the way. But regardless, in the storyline, I've made it back to Boise, Idaho. We're now not on TikTok anymore. We're not on online court anymore. No more Zoom court. We're going into real life court. And obviously, the TikTok psychic Ashley Gilliard is sitting there because, she accused the University of Idaho professor of orchestrating the Idaho student. And of course, having an inappropriate relationship with a student. And she posted it like it was a fact, again, with the only evidence being tarot cards. And the craziest part is, even inside the courtroom, after everything was said and done, she still refuses to admit that she was wrong. So this could no longer be called a misunderstanding. And what I was about to witness was the most delusional thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
All right, good morning from Boise, Idaho. We're about to go into the James A. McClure Federal Building and see what happens with the TikTok case. I'm currently in the bathroom because we're on our last break. This case is crazy. I was not expecting her to sit up there on the stand, number one, cross-examine herself and continue to state that she believes that Rebecca Schofield, the professor, is behind all of this. All right, so we just got out of court, and it's safe to say that was a disaster. That was crazy. I feel like I have a crazy amount of whiplash from that because I can't believe this was real. No, it's definitely not an act online. She is very adamant, or seems to be very adamant, that Rebecca Schofield still did this, even though the guy who did it has already been arrested and is currently in prison.
But either way, this is a defamation damages trial, meaning liability, that's already happened. We're not here to solve the, we're here to answer one question. How much money do you owe for telling the internet someone is a when they clearly didn't do that? And they did so repeatedly with zero evidence. Well, that's what we're going to find out. So you have the plaintiff, Professor Rebecca Schofield, and the defendant, TikTok psychic or self-proclaimed TikTok psychic, Ashley Gilliard. And yes, Ashley represents herself. And that becomes important because it gets very painful. And remember, I am condensing massive amounts of information here, so I will be paraphrasing and only going over the most important parts. After this video, if you do want the full text of what was actually said in court, I do read my notes on stream after each day, which are multiple hours long, but also insanely bizarre. So I'll link them in the description down below. So the theme of day one is essentially Ashley, the TikTok psychic, cross-examining Professor Schofield, and then gets destroyed by her own videos. So it doesn't end well for her. Clearly it doesn't. But to start things off, Ashley immediately gets very aggressive because when I walked in, Professor Schofield, she was already on the stand and Ashley was questioning her. So day one of the actual trial, not the jury selection, we kind of missed that one. Whoops. But that day starts with Ashley cross-examining Schofield, and Ashley asks, so you were concerned about the investigation? Schofield then says, no. She encouraged them to investigate because she had nothing to hide. Her only concern was wasting resources. Ashley doesn't like that answer, so she asks again. Schofield repeats, innocent, welcome investigation, but she was worried about wasting government resources because there's nothing to find there. And again, Ashley has zero proof that would even warrant investigation. So Ashley then snaps and goes, answer the question. And she kept doing this a lot. And that is, again, Ashley, you know, the person who's representing herself, not the judge asking, you know, the witness to answer the question. No, it's Ashley. And it's just such a bad look because you have the defendant ordering the witness around in front of the jury. And she keeps on re-asking like she's trying to force Schofield into saying, yes, I was terrified because I actually did it, which obviously would never happen. But then Ashley pivots to the weirdest angle possible. She tries to argue that Schofield wasn't harmed because she had support. In quote, did you have the support of the teacher union? And Schofield's like, I don't know how to quantify support. So Ashley then keeps asking it in different forms like some broken NPC. It's like the devs only gave her one line here. But then Ashley introduces the GoFundMe, where this professor raised $22,741. And Ashley starts really hammering in, did you ever read these donation comments? She also asks, why didn't you feel the need to read them? And do you remember who said what? And Schofield then says, you know, because she was taking a complete break from the internet during all of this for very good reasons. And she says that some of the comments were forwarded to her to help her get through it. So Ashley then digs into who made the GoFundMe. Was it a colleague? Was it someone from the University of Idaho? And Schofield says it was one person employed at a different college in the university system. Ashley is clearly trying to imply that institutional support for some reason means no harm was ever done. But the jury is sitting there like, how does this change the fact that you called her a... Like, it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. But regardless, Ashley then switches things up into the whole I didn't threaten you defense. So Ashley then spends the next 15 minutes trying to box Schofield into various admissions. You acknowledge that none of my TikToks were about your kids. And Schofield replied, well, you didn't name them. And she goes on to say, you acknowledge that I didn't threaten your children. And she said, correct, no explicit threat. And then she goes, you acknowledge that I didn't threaten physical harm. And then Schofield replied, you didn't state specific intent for physical harm, but your fixation was alarming and we were on high alert. And Ashley keeps trying to force the, so you admit no threat. And Schofield's point is pretty basic. When someone is falsely accusing you of online, you don't really need an explicit threat to feel unsafe. But Ashley then responds, but you and your husband monitored my socials. as if that has anything to do with the situation. And Schofield then responds that she doesn't even have TikTok. She was seeing what people were sending her. So Ashley then tries to spin the social media lockdown as Schofield's choice, and it was not forced. And Schofield then replied, she privatized because she wanted to stop the pictures of her kids being widely available online and felt unsafe and chose to not be on social media because of this. Then there was a key moment here where Ashley says, I didn't accuse you of being a abuser. And Schofield immediately replied, you accused me of having an inappropriate relationship with a student. That implies abuse. That's the point. And at that point, the entire courtroom was sitting there like, I cannot reiterate enough how much of a train wreck this was. Like, this is the biggest train wreck I've ever seen in my entire life. And yes, I was there for most of the court cases with Johnny Somali out in South Korea. This infinitely tops that. This is way dumber. This is basically a spectacle unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. Moving on to the next part, you have the Professor Schofield's damages plus treatment start, because Schofield's attorney connects damages to medical care. And Schofield says the symptoms got bad in December of 2022. And then treatment then started in February of 2023, and it's still ongoing. Ashley then tries to nitpick, I guess, diagnosis versus symptoms for like half an hour. And Ashley was being extremely nasty here. And it looked very much like the professor was reliving trauma here. And at the end of the day, like, it was clear to everyone, Ashley caused years of stress and trauma, which required treatment for Professor Schofield. But after Schofield stepped off of the stand, you could just see how much relief she had when she did so. But when the professor stepped down, Ashley then took the stand, and the courtroom watches her TikToks on one of those big projectors. And now Wendy Olson, who is Professor Schofield's attorney, questions Ashley. So first she establishes Ashley knows TikTok. She knows hashtags. She knows how the discoverability system works. She has a posting strategy. And then they start playing Ashley's videos in court. And it's worse in a courtroom because you can't hide behind the whole, oh, it's just content, because the text on the screen for each TikTok was something like, the two people who partnered to the four students, Rebecca Schofield and one of the students who's traumatized from all this, who Ashley also just slandered without any proof whatsoever. Then you have another one titled, I don't care what y'all say, Jack and Rebecca, Kaylee and the others. Kaylee is one of the victims who is no longer with us today. Rebecca isn't remorseful for ordering them. Rebecca is going to prison whether you like it or not. And if you thought it was hard to watch those TikToks on your phone or on a computer at home, imagine how much harder it was to watch them in front of a courtroom as a judge is staring, as the entire jury is staring, and all of the professor's family members are right there watching as well. It was a silent courtroom. That was awkward. But then the questioning started from Wendy. And through that, Ashley admits on the stand that she never met Professor Schofield, she never met Jack, she had no contact, and she still posted all that. Then Ashley tried to claim that the videos were manipulated to make her sound worse, so they play the video in full again and ask her if she thought that they were edited, and she said, oh, I don't know. And of course, the jury watches her say all this. It was just so pathetic to see. But it gets worse because Wendy then brings up the cease and desist demand. And in that demand, they just asked for the videos to be taken down, to stop doing this, and apologize. I think we all remember Ashley's response to this because she posted that video telling the professor to KMA. And then of course she uploaded another video where she was like, I found a good place for the demand letter. And then she put it with her toilet paper and she was like, I can wipe my with it. And of course that video had like 11,000 likes, and I'm sure that was 11,000 people who just couldn't wait to see how this lawsuit would end up. But it's safe to say the silence in the courtroom was just ringing. But of course things just keep getting worse because she then starts interviewing herself. So this is kind of like this weird situation that can happen when you have someone representing themselves, because they essentially have to like role play as their attorney and themselves on the stand to answer the questions, but they are sitting on the stand. So they kind of have to do this weird thing where they go, question, and then they have to like LARP as their lawyer, and then they go, answer, and then they answer as themselves. So she starts questioning herself in third person. Why did you post those videos? Because a TikTok user requested a reading. She then explains her process, and I guess she starts going into tarot cards, and she kept showing that tarot cards kept showing history. So she went to the University of Idaho history department page for some reason. She wrote down all the faculty names that she got off the website, and then decided to do tarot and oracle card readings of each of them. And when she got to Schofield, the card said Schofield ordered the... So that's why she made 100 videos accusing this innocent professor of orchestrating this awful tragedy. But not only that, she also alleged that Schofield had a relationship with a student and orchestrated all of this to cover that up. And then on top of that, she also on the stand admitted that she posted this because she believed the public needed to know. And of course, the judge had to repeatedly interject and clarify to the jury, this is just a state of mind, not a fact. Obviously, this is not evidence. After that extremely painful process, Ashley stops questioning herself, and Wendy, who's Professor Schofield's attorney, has the whole court eyes widen when she repeatedly asks the question, do you have a single fact? Because Ashley couldn't answer that question. And she continues with, you're serious, right? Ashley answers, yes. You knew that when you posted those videos, right? Yes. What facts did you have linking Schofield to what happened? And then Ashley says, psychics don't go off facts. They go off intuition. Okay, what now? So Wendy then asks, so you did no due diligence? And Ashley goes, correct. Did you verify Schofield was even in Moscow when the happened? No. Tarot cards said she ordered it, so I didn't need to. That's her defense. I didn't check because my tarot card said so. She admitted to this on the stand. And then Ashley started implying that sealed documents would prove that she was actually right, but she admits that she doesn't have any of these documents. So the defense is essentially, the evidence exists in the spirit realm or something like that. Like, I was stun locked when I left that courtroom because that was the end of day one. And this is my reaction a little bit after coming out of court.
I just got out of the most recent TikTok psychic court case a couple hours ago, and it was infinitely more insane than I could have ever imagined. So she accused the professor of this, and she also accused the ex-boyfriend of one of the victims for being the one who actually went through and did it all. And she spent over, I think it was about an hour, essentially interviewing herself on the stand, which was crazy. So it's safe to say today went awful for her in court. She even broke down in tears at one point, and then while they were playing the TikToks of her slandering the professor, she started smirking. Okay, so we're now at like day 3 for the TikTok psychics trial, and it's safe to say today's going to be very interesting because yesterday, honestly, I still have whiplash from it. So how could it get worse? I have a feeling it's going to get worse though.
And between the days, this case just gets uglier and uglier. I mean, it's all downhill from here. And remember, this case, again, isn't about some single slip up. No, it's about volume, repetition, and the refusal from Ashley to stop. Because even after all the warnings, the cease and desists, the takedowns, a lawsuit, and an arrest in the Idaho case, Ashley kept insisting that Schofield orchestrated everything. And I hope you can feel how awkward it was in that courtroom through my video, because everyone in that courtroom, especially the jury, looked completely dumbfounded, like they couldn't believe this was real life. Ashley also filed new stuff late at night arguing about like the damages and trying to fight PTSD and cherry picking and jury instruction patterns, which I guess fits her whole strategy, which essentially was deny the harm exists, deny that she's responsible, and pretend that because she used tarot cards, that makes it opinion, even though she clearly stated what she said. Because she spent most of day 2 essentially telling the mental health professional who diagnosed the professor with PTSD that she couldn't possibly have diagnosed her with PTSD because it just doesn't make sense. She kept on bringing up the DSM-5 and going, look, if we go through the DSM-5, she doesn't have PTSD. And it just showed the jury that she was just a delusional bully who wouldn't stop at anything to, I guess, continue to spew her delusions. But here's me after court on day 2.
So why did you try to destroy the life of an innocent professor with zero proof?
Get out of my face.
For asking you a question?
I said get out of my face.
We're in public.
Harassing, not just taking photos.
Today was honestly equally as insane or even more insane than yesterday. So she questioned this mental health professional over a paper for 1 hour. And this isn't just like a paper, it's actually like, it's 4 different sentences. And she kept on trying to have them read it out loud so she could like try to find some like way around to be like, no, actually, she didn't have a valid reason to be diagnosed with PTSD. It was insane. It was sickening to watch. And then they brought on the mother of the professor to testify how much her daughter had been suffering from this and how she'd been suffering from PTSD and anxiety and chronic stress after all of this happened. And Ashley then decided to start asking her questions of, well, are you a mental health professional? How would you know that she's actually dealing with stress? The whole thing was so insane to watch.
So now it's the final day, and Ashley doubles down. The jury finally gives their response, and I guess it all opens with a juror saying that she accidentally saw a local news headline about the case, and Ashley immediately tries to have the juror removed. Her argument was, well, it refers to me as famous. Not that it prejudiced the juror, not that it contained facts, no, just it called me famous. I mean, this is kind of like the brain operating system that we're dealing with here. It just does not make sense whatsoever. You felt insane from being in the presence of her. But regardless, the plaintiff rests and the judge asks Ashley, do you want to call a witness? And Ashley goes, I will call myself. And fun fact, like in the docket, right? You had to state your witnesses. So the professor actually stated a whole bunch of witnesses because she had real people to go and testify for her. And Ashley, she had one person, so she wrote it a whole bunch of times. So she wrote her name, Ashley Gilliard, witness 1, witness 2, Ashley Gilliard, witness 3, Ashley Gilliard, witness 4, Ashley Gilliard. So it's safe to say no one was surprised when she went, I will call myself. So she gets sworn in and brings her laptop and notes. And the judge does definitely note that it's very unusual for a witness to bring a laptop and notes and all this stuff, because most people don't really, treat the witness stand like a TED Talk. So Ashley then testifies about her work. So she says her business income, which I think is her tarot card reading services, that's $20,000 to $30,000 a year. Then she's also on VA disability, which is around $40,000 to $50,000 a year. So then she starts asking herself questions about why she's on VA disability. And she goes into her military deployment history and trauma. She says that she has PTSD, she has 100% disability, and describes her spiritual journey. So she says that she went from Buddhism to Hinduism, numerology, and then she explains how she trained herself with tarot cards, pulling cards while she was crying, and the cards were saying that she was emotional. She was predicting who would win the Bachelorette with tarot cards. Then she brings up this whole like intuition versus GPS, where she was following the GPS, and I guess the GPS brought her on the wrong road, but it was saying it was the right road, but her intuition knew that it was the wrong road. And then she had a whole intuition versus tire pressure, where she felt like her tire pressure was low, but her tire pressure sensor was saying they were fine, but they were in fact very low. So because of those two experiences, she believes she's a psychic. Okay then. It obviously couldn't be that she's been there before and maybe realized she was on the wrong road, or that maybe the car felt a little bit off when the tire pressure was low. What do I know? She must clearly be a psychic. It's all just so insane. So she then tries to introduce Exhibit 520, a text message to her aunt. Then there was an objection. Judge says this is state of mind only. Then Exhibit 507, the eviction document situation. Objection. Hearsay. The judge again, state of mind only. So she kept doing again, and this judge was way too lenient when it came to allowing the shenanigans from Ashley. So she continued going through all of these documents that she brought forward. But again, at the end of the day, nothing she introduced proves that you can accuse someone of murder. It only proves that you believe your own delusions. But of course, it keeps getting worse, because now it's time for the Ashley God book, plus her LLC called Fantasyland. So Ashley introduces Exhibit 505, her own writing, and it is unreal. She calls the public basically dumb as rocks and claims criminals didn't predict her ability to know what happened. And she calls herself Ashley God and claims that she has access to information that she wouldn't have unless she experienced it. And of course, the judge then had to interject again and go, okay, jury, remember, spiritual ability, that validity isn't the issue. It's only state of mind. Because again, we're here to find out how much money does she owe the professor, not if the professor actually did this or not, which Ashley, for some reason, seems to still try to prove in this court. But then Ashley, under oath, admits that she looked for proof after she accused the professor. So Ashley then gets to the Idaho murders and says she wanted authorities to investigate. And she claims that she gave up after police said Schofield wasn't a suspect. So she then says once she got sued, she used the lawsuit opportunity to prove Schofield was involved. Meaning, accuse first and then investigate later? What? And then she lists her objective evidence attempts, which is apparently a FBI tip email, a YouTube video repeating the claims, and then she subpoenaed Meta for connections. She also requested Moscow police records. She petitioned ADA County for sealed documents. She also filed motions for phone records, bank records, DNA, and so on and so on. And obviously, those were all denied for very good reasons, but she then goes on and frame it as nobody gave me evidence, so I had to rely on my own intuition. That's not a defense. That is negligence through a ring light. Like, the more I heard Ashley talk, it seemed more and more like she looked at herself as the center of the universe. But then she goes on to try to downplay the video count. So Ashley then, I guess, tried to claim that she posted 20 to 30 videos that were 60 seconds each, like 30 minutes in total, which is hilarious because the plaintiff's exhibit is literally dozens of pages of posts. So essentially, she's trying to rewrite the scale in real time. And I guess that was cool and all until she stopped questioning herself and a real attorney actually got up because Wendy started cross-examining her and started pulling Ashley's book details. So obviously you have the LLC shown on the book, which is Ashley Gilliard Lives in Fantasyland LLC. And then you have introduction, Ashley God. And then Wendy pulls up her lifestyle posts from the last year or so where she was in Paris. She was getting her nails done. She was at the Dior Cafe. She was doing perfume hauls. She was showing off Chanel, Gucci. She was in the Amalfi Coast. She was in Naples. And then, of course, Ashley had this like money fan video. And Ashley's response to that was, that was rent money. And then Wendy asked, okay, what's your rent? Because apparently she was living in Thailand at this time. And she was saying $2,000 to $2,100 a month. $2,000 to $2,100 a month? You are balling in Thailand on that. Well, let's see.
This is the new apartment I just got in Bangkok, Thailand. Overall, I pay $1,200 a month for this apartment.
$1,200 for that? She was living like what? She was paying $2,100? Dude, she was living a super lavish life while slandering this innocent professor in Idaho. What's going on? All right, but regardless, Ashley then confirms that she came back to the US for the trial and to check her mail. And this was Wendy's point. You're trying to play broke and misunderstood, but you're living a luxury travel influencer lifestyle on camera. And Wendy then talks through the timeline. So first, a TikTok naming Schofield is November 22nd, 2022. Then immediately the next day, she posts Schofield focused content. And then that Meta subpoena, you know, the one where she was like, I'm trying to find evidence, that came in 8 to 9 months later. And Wendy points out the judge told Ashley how to properly follow up and get info, and she didn't do it. And she also chose to keep posting accusations. And then Wendy goes for the core contradiction here. You didn't need facts to tell your truth. Ashley says it's tarot card readings, it's opinion. But Wendy then said the court ruled differently. And Ashley says, I don't know about that, which doesn't make sense whatsoever. You're literally in court because the court ruled differently. You are here for damages. This isn't about did she do it or not. Again, it's all about damages. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. It's been months and I'm still frustrated at this. So Wendy pulls up Exhibit 13, which is 57 pages. 2 videos are on each page. So if you do 57 times 2, it's 114. Ashley then tries to argue about the number from yesterday, and Wendy makes her do the math again. And thankfully, math wins here. And Wendy points out that Schofield's name is in the hashtag/file names and wasn't a couple readings. This was 114 videos. That is crazy. This was a sustained series targeting one person with murder accusations falsely. So Wendy then shows TikToks with claims that Schofield orchestrated them. She showed the ones where she claimed that Jack did it for her, and she showed the ones claiming that Schofield was a jealous side piece of one of the victims, which is why she orchestrated everything. It's so bad. It is so disgusting. But of course, each time she's going, are there any facts here? No, just tarot cards. Do you know anything about them personally? No. Okay, so it's confirmed. She made up motives, she made up the relationship, and the roles all based on the tarot cards. And then on top of that, she posted it as definitive and kept doing it.
All right, so it's now 5 in the morning. Unfortunately, I've been up all night streaming and making content. Did the last stream for the TikTok psychic trial. And then, of course, we got news about the Johnny Smalley trial, so I had to make a quick stream about that because that is also very interesting. But now I'm gonna try to get like maybe 2.5 hours of sleep or something like that. And then we have to beeline it straight to court because this is the last day of trial for the TikTok psychic. So now it's gonna be really interesting to see what kind of damages the professor can actually get out of Ashley Gilliard, the TikTok psychic. But I guess one thing is how much damages she's actually awarded. The second thing is, can she actually get anything? That's the other thing. Like, I know they could garnish wages, but who knows? So stay tuned for that. It's 8:20 in the morning, day of the last day of the trial. I got like an hour and a half of sleep. Now we gotta rush over to the courthouse, and I'll probably walk into the courtroom like 2 or 3 minutes late, hopefully. That's the goal. All right, see you guys there. All right, the final day. Beautiful morning over here.
Then finally, we had closing arguments. So Ashley repeatedly called Schofield an implied inappropriate student relationship with zero facts, zero evidence, and zero retraction. And after the cease and desist, she posted a KMA, and I'm going to use the cease and desist as toilet paper. She made a whole series and kept going after the arrest and kept posting way into 2025. So because this is so brazen and malicious, plaintiff asks for at least $1 million in compensatory damages plus punitive damages to make her stop. And Ashley then starts closing, and she goes, "No damages exist. Her career wasn't harmed, and no doctor proved symptoms were caused by me. I believed my tarot cards. It's reasonable to warn the public. Locks and cameras are normal. Why would they get them after I made videos on them?" And then, of course, she plugs in her computer and pulls out the DSM-5 to argue Schofield doesn't have PTSD. So now you have the TikTok psychic using the DSM-5 to try to prove that the professor does not have PTSD in court in front of the jury and the judge. You can't make this up. Also, this isn't damages hearing. So then the plaintiff rebutted a little bit and said she could control what she posted. She chose to accuse without facts. Only punitive damages would stop this behavior. And honestly, Ashley's behavior in court proved that. So then we had recess, and we just kind of had to wait for a few hours.
All right, we just got out. Court is officially over, or well, the trial is pretty much over because closing arguments just happened. Now we're waiting for the jury to make up their minds of essentially if Rebecca Schofield deserves damages, and if so, how much does she deserve for this? Rebecca Schofield's team was asking for at least $1 million. So this will be interesting to see what happens now. So we have a break. I don't know how long it's gonna take for all the jurors to get on the same page and figure out how much she's owed, or if she owes to begin with. From what I saw, I mean, I don't think there's a shot that they don't award her any money. So it'll be interesting to see.
And I was so low on sleep because I was up all night streaming and making content for you guys. So I was on like an hour and a half of sleep. So I ended up falling asleep in the car. And that's when thankfully another creator was there covering the situation. They actually saw me passed out sleeping in my car in front of the courthouse. And she went and knocked on the window and she was like, "Hey, by the way, the jury's going inside. You should go inside." And thankfully Killer Cafe decided to do that, because if not, I wouldn't have seen the verdict myself. So the jury came back and it was all unanimous.
All right, we just got out of court here in Boise, Idaho for the TikTok psychic case. And Ashley Gilliard, the TikTok psychic, now officially owes Rebecca Schofield $10 million. $10 million. I have never heard of a defamation case that big ever. And it's all because of her stupidity. I don't know how it's possible to accuse someone of quadruple homicide and having an inappropriate relationship with a student over and over and over and over again. After cease and desist, after the police said, hey, she's not a suspect, this didn't happen, after the actual dude who committed the acts was arrested, after he was sentenced. The dude is currently serving life in prison, but she's still adamant that Rebecca Schofield was associated with this. No, she's a selfish person who can't admit when she's wrong. No matter how much proof you show her, she doesn't admit it, and because of that, she's now paying the ultimate price. I didn't know that stupid tax went all the way up to $10 million. But regardless, now Rebecca Schofield is completely cleared. There's no world where anything that Ashley Gilliard was saying about Rebecca Schofield is right. Ashley Gilliard spent roughly 3 years trying to completely destroy the life of Rebecca Schofield and her family. And during that time of slandering her, she gave her PTSD, severe anxiety, and a whole bunch of other things. It's just so not fair. So at least we have a little bit of justice here. I mean, I've been covering this case since early 2023, and I never thought it was gonna get this far. I thought she was going to, you know, put up the white flag and be like, my bad, sorry, maybe I shouldn't be accusing people of by pulling tarot cards and my only proof being tarot cards. Oh, and oracle cards. Because apparently her only proof wasn't just tarot cards, she also had oracle cards, whatever those things are. So her proof was spiritual intuition, oracle cards, and tarot cards. I'm sorry, but we live in the real world, and unfortunately, you can't accuse someone for committing quadruple homicide and having an affair with a student with that evidence. That's not evidence.
And the verdict was basically, yeah, she made defamatory statements, and the dollar amount was $10 million. Well, if the verdict from the Johnny Somali case was underwhelming, this was definitely overwhelming. I never in a million years would expect her to get a $10 million judgment against herself for goofing around on TikTok and accusing her of murder. Clearly, I am not rebuttaling this whatsoever. You don't falsely accuse anyone of murder, especially not 114 times on a public platform. You're an idiot. And we actually had some justice here. And this, of course, included $5 million of punitive damages for her tarot card accusations. But then, of course, she went on to respond. And if you think all this is bad, just wait for the hole that she digs herself, because it just keeps getting worse. It's to the point where it's like, okay, did you not learn from your $10 million judgment now? Now you're going straight back to TikTok and you're continuing where you left off? What? But essentially what's coming next now is obviously settlement talks, asset tracing, wage garnishment. But again, she's a supposed psychic, so honestly, she really should have seen this one coming. And the reason I haven't made this video until now is because it keeps getting worse. The story somehow is still in a downward spiral. We have honestly been in a perpetual downward spiral since I first started covering the story back in, wow, I've been covering this since early 2023. This is crazy. And apparently she also wants to sue me. So that's interesting. Why does she want to sue me? Well, I asked her a question outside of the courthouse. I simply asked, why would you falsely accuse an innocent professor of doing all of this? And she immediately was like, I'm calling the police. And then ran inside and then tried to get the police guys to come out and yell at me for asking her a question in public. If you don't want to be questioned in public, maybe, just maybe, don't make 114 videos falsely accusing an innocent professor of committing a quadruple homicide. So she was banned again on TikTok after losing, but obviously she's not done. She immediately went back to TikTok, made a new account, and started making everything worse for herself. She made like a 31 part responding to this, and we'll watch a lot of them because we have to skip some of them because she's making more claims now without proof, and there's just nothing really for me to comment on. And also, there's a lot of just useless rambling here that doesn't really add too much to the video. Regardless, this was one of the first videos I came across.
$10 million verdict, still buying tarot cards.
She hasn't learned anything. She's not sorry. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about this at all. This is just so crazy. But this is the first one.
First, my thoughts are it's just slightly irritating because I was ready for this to be over. I wanted to receive a verdict that was fair and impartial and based on the evidence. And unfortunately, that did not happen. And because the jury could not be fair and impartial and base their decision on the evidence, we have to keep going. Now, instead of this being over, we have to go through the process of motions and appeals so that we can get to a fair and impartial decision.
What do you mean you wanted this to be over? The professor wanted this to be over years ago, but instead, you announced you were going to be wiping your butt with her cease and desist. Unfortunately for her, no amount of appeals is going to change this verdict. She represented herself and it came across as extremely malicious. What's crazy to me is she still doesn't understand the damage that she did to the life of the professor.
This $10 million verdict is so ridiculous and so large that I have to talk about this. I can't be silent. So my first question is about juror number 5.
Yeah, we know.
Who works as an attorney for a firm that works with Stowe Reeves, which is the firm representing Schofield. He also had cases in the past where he worked directly with Schofield's attorney. So how did they get him on the list, jurors, or how did he get on this list? First of all, and second of all, he should have been excused for cause because obviously he's going to be biased if he is a partner with Schofield's attorneys in many other cases, and currently his firm is partnering with Schofield's attorneys in other cases as well. So it's partners, essentially. So he can't be unbiased because obviously they're friends or co-workers, partners, they work together. He should not have been a member of the jury at all, not any of the days.
Okay, so she's calling out jury members now. Ma'am, jumping to conclusions got you into this mess in the first place. Why are you still jumping to conclusions?
Secondly, it was like freedom of religion and freedom of speech, especially freedom of expression as it pertains to spirituality, was attacked the entire trial. First of all, Schofield's attorney kept pointing out things like me calling myself Ashley God in my books, which does not mean that I'm your God, but that I refer to myself as Ashley God because of the spirit of God living inside of me. Anyway, it shouldn't have been pointed out at all. She kept pointing out stuff like me referring to myself as Ashley God. Secondly, in her closing statement, she asked the jury to punish psychics for our beliefs. She said psychics or whatever can say whatever they want as long as they say they believe it. So they have to be, she essentially asked them to punish psychics, to punish me, as in punishing all psychics for our beliefs. How is that okay?
Okay, number 1, it is beyond weird to call yourself God. Number 2, this is not about punishing psychics. This is about punishing people who are wrongfully accusing innocent people of over and over again, regardless of how much information and evidence they have received proving that they are actually defaming an innocent person.
They obviously listened to Schofield's attorney when she asked them to punish psychics, punish me on behalf of all psychics for our beliefs. So essentially, our beliefs can be limited and we cannot express ourselves fully based on our beliefs. The reason why I believe it was more so about punishment of psychics and punishing spiritual people, or they call me a witch, so maybe punishing witches for our beliefs. I'm not a witch, but they refer to me as a witch. It's because she also had no damages. There was testimony that from her boss that she was promoted one to 3 times. There was testimony from the general counsel at the University of Idaho that she had not even been investigated. There was testimony and evidence that the police did not believe me, the school did not believe me, her family and friends did not believe me, so she received no repercussions from.
This is why she got hit with a $10 million verdict, because clearly she has zero remorse. She is in complete disbelief that her actions actually have consequences, and now she's trying to group herself with other psychics. Ma'am, no other psychic went on a 3-year defamation spree of this professor.
Okay, she had no damages. Again, she was promoted at work, so she can't say that she lost money or opportunities at work. So that turned out to be a lie. In the docket, she said she lost opportunity at work. When she filed the case, she said she lost promotions and opportunities at work. But it had only been 20 days since I made the statements when she claimed to have lost promotions and opportunities at work. But it was false. Her boss testified she'd been promoted at least 1 time, 1 to 3. Again, they were all kind of flabbergasted on the stand when I was cross-examining them, hardly trying not to answer questions. So he first said she was promoted or had a pay increase up to 3 times. Then he said once, he don't know which one. But she at least has been promoted and received the pay increase 3 times. So how does that lead to a $10 million verdict?
In court, we both heard that she canceled work trips and networking events. You falsely accused a professor of orchestrating a quadruple homicide. Of course, large institutions are going to be hesitant to hire and work with someone accused of something like that, especially during the time before the actual perpetrator was arrested and before Ashley was found liable of defamation. This isn't rocket science. Institutions are very risk averse, and unfortunately, you've put a permanent stain on this professor's record.
Mental health damages. So her mental health professional was so senile. She testified in court that I unalived, physically unalived, and she said, we use the right word in court, Rebecca Schofield. And I'm like, she's right there. She's not unalived. She's right there. She was so senile and she could not admit her own wrongdoings that she would say ridiculous statements like that. Then I asked her about in-person direct contact versus electronic media. She testified that if you talk to someone over the phone or you see something over the phone, that it is in person, that you're talking to that person in person and not electronically.
Okay, so I was there for the entire testimony and I even read the notes I have on my live stream after this. Her back and forth with the mental health professional was unbearable. She was just trying to get some gotcha moment on the mental health professional, so she kept circling back to the same thing. The mental health professional said Ashley's videos affected Schofield personally. From what I remember, Ashley was focused on how it could affect her personally if it was just all on the phone. It was kind of like she was using that Tyler the Creator tweet from like 2011 or something, where it was like, how is cyberbullying real? Just turn off your computer. That's essentially the argument she was using against the professor here. In this context, that does not work whatsoever, and it's safe to say it was just very painful to watch.
So of that was about $1 million in damages for my statements regarding her relationship with the student, one of the victims. And another $1.5 million was for my statements regarding her and the murder. So physical, for compensatory damages, it has to be proof that there were actual damages and that I caused them. But there was no evidence to suggest, not even she did not receive an interview, a question from her job. No one believes me. So there was no repercussions at her job and no financial loss to her job as it pertains to any of my statements. There was also no proof that her claims of mental health damages were caused by me because, according to the DSM-5, that was impossible. So where did $2.5 million come from when there was no evidence?
Because this will follow her for the rest of her career, and she now has PTSD. Of course this would affect her career. I am so shocked she lost this judgment and essentially went straight back to TikTok to essentially just continue to slander the professor.
First of all, I'm about to press charges against Atozy. He's been calling my phone for 3 years. Since the onset of this case, he's been calling and harassing me by phone. He was harassing me in person after court on Thursday. And obviously, he's sending all of you people from his page to my page to post negative comments and feedback. At this point, he's harassing me and I need to press charges. It's like, I didn't even know who this person was. I still don't know who he is, but he's been harassing me, calling my phone. He even called and texted my phone after harassing me in person after court. This is getting ridiculous for a lame like him, a loser lame like Atozy that I don't even know, to continuously call and harass me all these years and to show up in person. Like, do you have a life? Like, what's wrong with you?
What is going on here? First of all, I have never contacted this woman other than asking her one single question outside of the courtroom to where she immediately called the police. I have zero interest in contacting her, and I've also never made any statement for any of my viewers to go to her pages. This is beyond stupid. I asked her a question in person. That's it. One single question. Hey, why did you falsely accuse an innocent professor of a quadruple homicide? That's all I asked. And she went, I'm calling the police. You get away from me. Like, come on.
While Rebecca Schofield is pretending to be so damaged, isolated because of my statements, the things that she was saying about her were actually true for me. She was saying that, pretending like she didn't have support, but everybody was there to obviously support her. She had lawyers, a team of lawyers, family, friends, colleagues, The general counsel at the University of Idaho, the union even paid for her attorney's fees. Several unions sent her money, and people across on the GoFundMe also sent her money. So she had tons and tons of support. Meanwhile, I was there alone. No attorneys. I was there alone. No family, no friends, no supporters, all alone. So the scenario that she was trying to paint for herself in order for her to receive money for damages was actually the scenario for me.
Ashley, this is way more telling of the kind of people you are. The professor clearly had a positive impact on her family and loved ones, and therefore had a whole community around her. She is the victim here. You went on your own accord and made 114 videos falsely accusing the professor, and nobody you know supports you enough to show up in court. You were there all alone, and your life won't change until you actually take a look within and see the damage your words and actions have. Life has a way of returning the energy you put out into the world, and it's clear that Ashley does not understand this whatsoever.
So during trial, I testified to where my income comes from, but I let them know that most of my income comes from being a combat veteran, from having PTSD, from witnessing the death of my fellow comrades, soldiers, and Iraqi soldiers, but soldiers in general, that I was working with were killed, and also there was attempts in my life when I was in combat as well, and that is where most of my income comes from. And Professor Schofield lied about having PTSD from a TikTok video, from which her senile therapist testified that you cannot have PTSD from a TikTok video. She tried to make it like you could, but then she specifically stated you cannot get PTSD from a video. So did the jury expect for me to give my income that I received from PTSD from being a combat veteran and give it to Rebecca Schofield, who's pretending to have PTSD from a TikTok video?
Yeah, this is why she got hit with a $10 million judgment. That was so that she would stop, but she's not stopping. This is only going to make things worse for her. Like, do we believe the mental health professional who diagnosed the professor, or do we believe Ashley Gilliard, the TikTok psychic who clearly has phenomenal judgment? Like, this is what we were dealing with in court here.
This lawsuit was not all bad. I learned a lot of valuable lessons from this lawsuit. First, I learned that I'm capable of a lot of things that I didn't know that I was capable of doing, even though the result is the result. I did an amazing job in court. I also did an amazing job in some of my docket entries as well.
No, you didn't. The only thing you did a great job at was proving to everyone that you were not sorry. Also, you missed multiple deadlines in this.
I also learned that I don't have to show up for people. I don't have to put myself on the line for people. If I believe that someone is or someone did something, I don't have to put myself out there so much to get justice for people who will never, ever show up for me. So I've learned I don't have to put myself out there like that. Also, I learned regarding like people close to me, I also learned that they aren't really there for me as well. So I learned that I feel alone, but I've also learned that I am.
You weren't standing up for anyone. You were just tormenting the professor, the students, and the families with your blatant disregard for the truth while chasing TikTok views. This doesn't make sense.
I've also learned to listen to my spiritual mentor. Before this Idaho 4 case, there was other cases that I was doing readings on and putting myself out there and advocated for and putting people who I believe to be the on blast. And my spiritual mentor told me, stop. Well, he said no. In a dream, of course, he told me no, like emphatically, no, don't do this. And I didn't even listen to my spiritual mentor, which is crazy, but I did not listen to my mentor. I won't do that again. I'm learning to take his advice. Not only because of this lawsuit and the result, but also it could have been a lot worse. Like my life, like instead of being sued, I could have been threatened. I could have been harmed. So next time when my spiritual mentor tells me not to do something, I'm definitely gonna listen.
I mean, at this point, her delusions are just fighting with each other.
I don't perceive for my life to be over due to this verdict. First of all, there are options. Again, there's the option to appeal. There's motions that had to be made prior to that. I don't expect the court to be fair. It hasn't been fair so far. Maybe the Court of Appeals can be fair, but I don't trust, like, the trust in the legal system for me has gone substantially down due to my experience, not just with this case, but others. But also, the maximum for punitive damages in Idaho is $250,000. So that will reduce the verdict to about $2.75 million or something like that. Even so, then that's too much because she wasn't actually damaged and I did not act with an intent to harm or maliciously. I was just trying to help. So I have to decide, do I want to move forward with an appeal or...
Again, she isn't standing up for anyone. And she did also move forward with an appeal. And I'll have more information on that shortly.
So now let's talk about the precedent that's being set. If Rebecca Schofield can claim PTSD from a video and receive millions of dollars from it, then everybody who watched George Floyd be on video, who watched all of these videos that's online of people being killed, all of us who watched those videos can also then claim that the PTSD that we have or whoever has is from that video and can be awarded millions of dollars from the people posting the videos and also from the people committing murder on video. So if it's good for Rebecca Schofield, it should be good for everybody else. Now the standards, the DSM-5 say you can't get PTSD from a video, but the court disregarded the standards and Schofield got millions of dollars. So the standards should also be disregarded if somebody else comes to court saying they have PTSD from a video as well.
No, it sets the precedent that if you make 114 TikTok videos falsely accusing someone of orchestrating a quadruple homicide without any proof, and you continue despite multiple cease and desists and platform takedowns, that yes, you can be sued for multiple millions of dollars.
Another strange thing that Rebecca Schofield said during trial was that she lived 10 minutes away from the students. And despite living 10 minutes away from the students and where the murders occurred, after the murders occurred, she did not lock her doors. She didn't feel the need to lock her doors. So at that time, nobody was arrested and there was a murderer who killed 4 people on the loose, but she didn't feel threatened enough to even lock her doors. Any normal person would lock their doors if 4 people were 10 minutes away from them and they don't know who did it. I think it's quite odd that she didn't feel the need to lock her doors.
She's still hung up on the semantics of this case. Like, who cares if she locked her doors before or after this tragedy? What matters is you falsely accused her and slandered her over the course of 114 TikTok videos.
Also, keep in mind that I did not lose because some substantial evidence came out that she did not have anything to do with this. No. The reason why I lost by summary judgment initially regarding the defamation is because I did not have any objective evidence outside of my tarot readings to prove what I was saying was true. But I was also denied by everybody access to that evidence. I asked Facebook for evidence. They told me no, they do not provide evidence in civil cases. I asked the University of Idaho, was there any evidence? Initially on their subpoena, they said they checked deleted emails and did not find any evidence of any deleted emails. But then during trial, they confessed that they don't check deleted emails because they don't have access to check deleted emails or anything deleted they did not check. So she could have deleted anything and they would have said they didn't have it. MPD also denied me access to evidence.
Ashley, again, you lost because you falsely accused her without any proof. You don't get to suddenly go look for proof after you defame someone. It doesn't work like that. You have no one but yourself to blame. This is like the biggest skill issue I've ever seen in my life. How do you TikTok video yourself into $10 million of debt? I didn't think that was possible until this year. So honestly, she's the best in the world at this. She's the first one to ever achieve something this stupid.
This is a list of people or agencies, governments that I asked for access to documents and evidence and they told me no. Facebook told me no. University of Idaho, I asked about who advised the students. Can I have a list of people who advised the students? They told me no. Moscow PD, I requested documents from them. They told me no. Ada County or ADA County, however you say it, I asked for documents. They told me no. I specifically requested documents from Judge Hippler from the court by motion. Judge Hippler removed the document from their docket and also told me no. That's at least between government agencies and Facebook and the University of Idaho, 5 that I requested documents from, and they told me no. So when I lost for not having access to documents or having objective evidence, it's because they all told me no.
Again, no, you lost because of falsely accusing someone 114 plus times.
I'm just gonna say it's not fair for the government, the federal government, to issue me a judgment to me stating that I have to pay $10 million or whatever $1 million to the plaintiff because I don't have objective evidence to prove my statements when the state government denied me access to documents and evidence that could ultimately prove that at least some of the stuff that I was saying was true. So if I don't have access to evidence because the government refused me access to evidence, and then the government issues a judgment for me to pay $10 million to someone because I don't have access to evidence, that doesn't sound like impartiality. That doesn't sound like fair. That doesn't sound like a legal system that the United States should be a part of. This should not be okay with anybody, whether you like me or not. The government should not be issuing orders for us to pay money because we don't have access to evidence when the same government denied us access to that evidence. It's not okay.
No, this is actually very okay. You don't get to randomly accuse someone of orchestrating a quadruple homicide without proof, then cry because they wouldn't give you her bank records and other sensitive information. You have no business with that information. Like, this case actually proves that things are working.
They're working very hard to silence me. They sent an email to the judge and the judge's assistant, basically trying to request for them to silence me. To silence me about juror number 5, who displayed evidence of bias against me. And to silence me in general. They don't want me talking about what happened in this court case. But I'm not gonna be silent. Not anymore.
What do you mean, not anymore? You not being silent got you into this mess in the first place. Essentially, she's claiming there's some loose tie between one of the jurors who was there during some of the time, but not the deliberation because they were excused before that. And I guess wants to get everything thrown out. Again, though, a big hurdle for her here is her claims got her into this trouble in the first place. And she's proven to the court that she will lie over and over again to get her way. And here she is, making more claims.
I'm not going to be silent about my rights being violated. I'm not going to be silent about a jury full of bias and a $10 million verdict when the plaintiff had no damages. I'm not going to be silent about the plaintiff and her family lying on a stand that I'm responsible for her nerve damage. I'm not going to be silent about the plaintiff lying on the stand and her mother saying I'm responsible for the plaintiff's diabetes. And I'm definitely not going to be silent about the plaintiff fake crying on the stand and lying that she has PTSD from a video.
Okay, one thing for sure is the mental health professional testified under oath and that she diagnosed the professor with PTSD. And it's not from a TikTok video, it's from repeated targeted harassment of being falsely accused of a relationship with a student and a quadruple homicide of students that went to her school. Her life was flipped upside down because of these 114 plus TikTok videos that she made over the span of multiple years, and on top of that, multiple YouTube videos going after her. Her mom made a comment where she said she believed the professor getting diabetes had to do with a false accusation campaign against her. And Ashley is latching onto this like that's somehow her get out of jail free card.
During trial, they kept talking about the 113 videos that I posted when I was trying to get justice for the Idaho 4. Well, how many videos do you think I would post trying to get justice for myself? If I posted 113 videos trying to get justice for 4 students whom I don't know, I will post 1,113 videos trying to get justice for myself. You will never silence me.
She's going to find herself in another lawsuit if she isn't careful. But hey, I mean, as long as she stops slandering people, she'll be somewhat okay, maybe, right?
Wendy Olsen must be some sort of powerhouse in Idaho. I mean, she does represent the media coalition. She must be connected in Idaho. When I tell you the judge, most of what they asked the judge to do, he did. And when he would say no to Wendy Olsen regarding motions, regarding me, allowing me to do something, she would give him this look like she was angry that he was telling her no. Judge Patrico typically would do whatever they asked him to do. But those little times when he would say no, ooh, she was mad. She would give him this look. And that look is like she has some sort of power over him, or she has some sort of power and he better do what she said. Yeah, it's something else going on. It's something behind the scenes. As an outsider, I don't see it. But Wendy Olsen has some sort of power in Idaho.
Yes. She has the power that she's actually an attorney. She actually knows how to navigate the courtroom. I was actually very entertained watching Wendy work because she is a very good attorney. And every time Ashley pulled some BS, Wendy was very quick to shut it down. There's just a massive skill gap between them since they were going at each other, but one of them was an attorney. So again, this is all Ashley's fault for doing what she did, but on top of that, for not getting any legal representation.
Lawyers have to follow a code of ethics. When they don't follow that code of ethics, we can file complaints with the bar. Juror number 5, a lawyer who works and partners with the plaintiff's lawyers, Stoll Reeves and Wendy Olsen, and whose firm currently has cases partnering with Stoll Reeves and Wendy Olsen. Being on the jury, deliberating, and influencing other jurors should also be considered an ethic violation, because juror number 5 is a lawyer who cannot be unbiased because he's friends and colleagues with the plaintiff's lawyers. By even allowing himself to be a member of the jury, that is an ethical violation and should be reported to the bar. Probably looked at me and thought it was okay to violate my rights, but I'm gonna show you why it's not okay.
Okay, so Ashley is back at it again with more claims and zero proof. How do we know this isn't another gross misrepresentation?
So my question is, Rebecca Schofield had everything on her team. She had lawyers, a team of lawyers. She had money from the teachers union, from the federal teachers union. Several unions gave her money for her lawyer fees. She had money from GoFundMe, $22,000. She had witnesses, a team, like at least 7 or 8 witnesses testifying on her behalf, even though some of them failed in cross-examination. She had family and friends to support her. She had her job to support her. She had the case in Idaho of her peers, upstate of her peers, not my peers. I didn't have witnesses. I didn't have lawyers. I didn't have money given to me. I didn't have a state. It wasn't even in my state. I didn't have a jury of my peers. Why did they also have to cheat? That's why I'm ranting about juror number 5. Because why did they also have to have someone that they knew on the jury when they had everything else?
Okay, why did you slander an innocent professor and not stop even though they gave you dozens of opportunities to do so?
They're mad about my content regarding juror number 5. You know what I'm mad at? My rights being violated. Yeah, I'm mad that I was robbed of judicial fairness, fair trial, impartiality. I didn't get that. So for anybody to be mad about my content instead of being mad that my rights were violated.
Well, I mean, she appealed, so I guess we'll see what happens.
People keep asking me how I feel about the $10 million verdict. I feel like the $10 million verdict is more representative of the ignorance, stupidity, and bias of the jury than it does the evidence.
Okay, so scratch the jury part and just say yourself, and I'll agree with her.
The jury was so stupid that they let their emotions or biases, passion, religion get in the way of a sound, reasonable judgment. So basically, they put their feelings, emotions, passions, biases, religions over justice. And that's against the rules. And because they couldn't follow the rules now, I have a reason for a new trial. But we wouldn't even need a new trial if they would have followed the evidence, which showed that Rebecca Schofield was not damaged from my statements.
Yeah, I'm sure they were the ones who were stupid here.
The jury tried to ruin my life. This $10 million verdict was their attempt to ruin my life. But all it did was prove that they're biased and prove that I was right about their biases. Before the trial, I filed several motions that were denied regarding the location of trial. And I said I could not get a fair trial in Idaho. The jury proved that to be true. And during trial, before trial and jury selection, several of the jurors, juror number 5 and 13 specifically, I said could not be impartial. The $10 million verdict proved that to be right. So they did not ruin my life. They just gave me leverage and also proved that everything that I was saying regarding their inability to be unbiased and impartial was right. So joke's on you.
Ma'am, you ruined your own life.
Rebecca Schofield lied on the stand under oath several times during trial. For example, she lied and said that she was investigated due to my statements about her involvement with the students and involvement with the crimes. But then when the general counsel for the University of Idaho testified, he testified that Rebecca Schofield was not in fact investigated due to any of my statements. She lied. She also lied and said that her mental health practitioner worked with her primary care doctor for a diagnosis of her PTSD. But then when her mental health practitioner took the stand, she testified that she did not work with Rebecca Schofield's primary care doctor. Rebecca Schofield lied again. There were several times where she would change her answers during the same testimony. She just proved herself to be a liar while she was on the stand as a witness.
I don't know about the statements about Rebecca, but the same can be said to you. You lied about the story that got you into this mess in the first place.
Inside Edition asked me how I felt about Rebecca Schofield. I'm glad they asked this question because during court, when I was about to answer this question, I had to ask myself this question and I was going to answer. They objected to it and it was sustained by the judge. But my answer is I think she's a liar. It would have been a longer answer in court. And I would have gave examples. And I did give examples to Inside Edition. But my answer is, I think she's a liar.
Okay, well, everyone that's seen this story thinks you're a liar and destroyed your own life for some attention online. And now you're just really upset that your actions actually had consequences. This is actually a rare case of an influencer effing around and actually finding out.
You know what I noticed in court? Everybody or her witnesses kept testifying to an email that she received. This alleged email was someone being nasty or threatening to her. No one saw the email. These people are testifying under oath about an email she received, but no one actually saw the email. They had the audacity to try to equate or connect this email to me, which had nothing to do with me, and are testifying to her fear after receiving this email in an attempt to get me to pay for damages related to this fear. First, this email never surfaced, so we don't know nothing about this email. I never seen this email. Nobody is saying who did it. They don't know. So one, why would all these people be in court testifying to something that they did not see? First, and second, why are they testifying in an attempt to get me to pay for damages related to something that they did not see? These people are dishonest.
Okay, so you're worried about them making up an email when you made up an entire life-ruining story. Also, meanwhile, she just made up that I was allegedly calling her. And again, the only time I've ever tried to contact this woman was in person, outside of court, where everything is on film. But that's currently it for now. So now we kind of have to wait for the appeal process and see if it gets dragged back into court. Regardless, this has been an absolute nightmare for the professor. And it's so sad to see that Ashley is still going at it, even after all of this. And meanwhile, Ashley is currently posting about being on the beach in Thailand and already going back to solving new mysteries. Oh boy, this will only end well. So I have no idea if the insanity will ever stop, but if this video does get 50,000 likes, I will go back to court and cover it as extensively as this. So if you're new here, feel free to subscribe. It absolutely helps the channel so much. And without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.